So I've struggled with obesity most of my adult life. After I went to college and graduate school, life just kind of started getting away from me, and the more time went on, the more pounds I put on. I was in a serious situation. I was in class 3 obesity, classified as being morbidly obese, and at that point in time I weighed 280 pounds. I did not feel good. I didn't have energy. I was on high blood pressure medication. My cholesterol was out of control. I was in the advanced stages of pre-diabetes. As I started to look at my children, my grandchildren, I started realizing, do I really want this? Is this where I want to be? Do I want to be a burden to them? The desire in my heart was that I would be there for them. And I knew that at my present pace, that was not going to happen. And so my wife and I discussed it, talked about the options, and realized that we were going to have to take a journey together. It was not something we could do solo. We had to do together. I tell people that I have discovered 3 steps to fitness. And step number 1 is a trip to your mind. You've got to make a choice. That's the first thing you've got to do. And for me, the choice was I didn't want to continue to live the way I was. And so I had to make that decision. And so once I came to that place and I realized that I needed to make those changes, then step number 2 was a trip to the kitchen. And we realized we needed to change what we ate. Now, the interesting thing of it is that for a number of years, my wife and I had practiced largely a vegan diet. Vegan being free of dairy and eggs, no meat, fish or poultry or anything like that. But I've come to discover that that really doesn't adequately describe the journey I'm on, because there are many things that are actually classified as vegan. Soda, potato chips, French fries. Vegan, but not healthy. Jan and I decided that we were going to start practicing a whole food, plant-based diet. The less processed foods we'd eat, the minimal amount of oil, and virtually cutting out oil in food preparation at all, high amounts of sugar. We started making those changes and things started happening. When I started thinking about, the direction that I wanted to go with my life, I decided that I was going to start working out. A friend of ours, a fellow member of our church, made a commitment to working out with us 3 days a week. And so we would work out 1 hour a day, 3 days a week. And it was interesting because in that period of time, working out, and I mean, it was a hard workout. In 4 years, I lost 15 pounds. But once we set our minds on making some healthy lifestyle changes, in 4 weeks, I lost my next 15 pounds. I've lost more than 90 pounds. My wife has lost more than 40 pounds. Step number 3 then was a trip to the gym. And we continued to work out. Now, the interesting thing that happened was that when we started eating healthy, we discovered that we had more energy than we had had in years. I mean, I felt like it did when I was in my 20s. And this was unbelievable. And I had to do something with that amount of energy. And so about 3-4 weeks into my lifestyle change, I went out and bought a mountain bike and I started mountain biking. And I started hiking and started walking and started swimming and doing things that I had never done before, or at least hadn't done for a number of years. And after consulting with my doctor, and after roughly 6 to 8 weeks in the process of my lifestyle change, I didn't need the blood pressure meds anymore, and I haven't taken them since. My total cholesterol dropped all the way down to 131. My HDL, which is the good cholesterol that you want to be high, I've never gotten it out of the low 30s, never in my memory. But because of all of my activity and my renewed energy, my HDL is now in the upper 40s. I sat in the office with my cardiologist. He asked me a question. He said, so what has been the reaction of your friends and your colleagues and other people that you've encountered? And I said, you know, it's interesting because I said some of my friends and colleagues have kind of given me a little bit of pushback with this. They say, you know, Phil, don't you think you're being a bit radical? He says, next time anybody says what you've done is radical, tell them this. When we as physicians have to crack someone's chest open and do quadruple bypass surgery, that's radical. When we have to put a stent in someone, that's radical. He said, even when we have to prescribe statin drugs, he says, that's radical. He says, what you've done isn't radical. It makes sense. And he said, congratulations. And he said, just continue the journey. I hadn't seen my daughter in quite some time. And she actually saw me several months into my journey. By that time, I had lost a significant amount of weight. And when she came up to me, she threw her arms around me and she gave me this great big hug and she said, Papa, she says, you know, she says, this is the first time in my life that I've been able to get my arms all the way around you. I want to be there for my wife. I want to be there for my children. I want to be there for my grandchildren. And I realize that the choices I've made and the changes I've made are sustainable. They're not some gimmick, not some mail order shake or something that, you know, you're on a diet for a while and, you know, and then you go back. What I'm doing is sustainable. And it has been deeply inspirational to me and to others. And I'm just so excited to be able to share that journey with other people and encourage other people on that journey.